Good evening, families of rising fifth grade instrumental music students. My name is Brian Mayer, and I look forward to working with your students on the 2021-2022 school year. I teach fifth through 12th grade band, orchestra, and guitar for the school district. A little bit about myself. I am an alumni of the school district. I was spent kindergarten through 12th grade here. I graduated in 2003 and then went to Red Wing, Minnesota for a musical instrument repair diploma, and then to Northern Illinois University for my bachelor's in music ed. And I joined the faculty here at Yellow Springs in 2013. A few years ago, we updated the way we do fifth grade instrumental music, and I'd like to spend a few minutes tonight explaining how that works so that you know what to expect when your students come in at the beginning of the year next year. So to give you some background, we were running our beginner program like most schools do and like our school has done for many, many years. With the exception of that our school has fifth and sixth grade band or orchestra as part of their rotation of specials for every student, not just a opt-in program. So we are very lucky that our school supports that and that we give every student a chance and an opportunity to figure out if instrumental music is a thing that they want to continue to participate in through the rest of their middle school and high school time here. So a couple of years ago, I was examining our program and I was trying to find a way students would be better equipped to make their decision about what instrument they wanted to play as fifth graders. And part of the issue that we were having was that because we do have the music program required for the last 2 years of Mills Lawn, and I don't have a lot of flexibility with switching a student from a band section to an orchestra section if they figured out that their instrument was not quite the right fit for them because of our seat limitations. When they're not with me, they go to other specials, and when there's more than 24 in a section, it really causes some issues in other parts of the building. So I was getting some burnout from fifth graders around week 12 if they had made an instrument that wasn't really working for them. And for sure, in the sixth grade year, we were having some just some lagginess, and when they were given the option to continue or to switch to a different class in seventh grade, a couple of years ago, we were losing a fair amount of students when we switched buildings. So I looked at what we were doing, and I tried to figure out a way that made sense for both the school and for my skill set to improve the situation and help students have more ownership over being in band or orchestra and have a higher level of informed decision making when it came to picking an instrument that they wanted to play. So what it looked like in the past was that students would come to an evening meeting and spend 5 or 10 minutes per instrument, kind of in a round robin session in the library, and they'd make sound on each instrument, and that's how they made their decision. And that's really, in my opinion, not enough time for them to make a choice for something that they're going to do for at least 2 years here at Mills Lawn and then into the middle school up at McKinney. So what it looks like now is we, or I, when I say we, I mean the school, myself on behalf of the school. I looked at the number of instruments that we had in our inventory that were not being used every year. And I noticed that with only a couple of more instruments that we would have a class set for the fifth grade where no fifth grade student had to rent an instrument. So there's a pressure off the family that I'll talk about on the next slide. And then I wanted to give each student an opportunity to play on a couple of different instruments for an extended period of time to figure out if that was in fact the right match for them. So in the past, a lot of students made their instrument decision based on ones that they had seen before, ones that an older sibling or a parent had already owned, or in the case of the clarinet, because they saw Squidward on SpongeBob playing it. So these are all decisions that are should be taken into account. But really, when we want students to make the right choice for them, we want them to play an instrument that they like the sound of, that physically they're coordinated to play, and that is going to encourage them to take it out and practice it in between classes. So like I said, I wrote a grant to the Yellow Springs Community Foundation, and we got about $12,000 to outfit the rest of the instruments that we would need for this program, and new cases for everything, and new bows for all of the string instruments. So now I have a matched set of cases, and I have a full set of instruments, and that kind of takes out some of the peer-to-peer stigma of, oh, you've got an old, beat up trumpet case versus you have this shiny new trumpet case. Everybody's got new cases, and when we sit down, we've got a level playing field. So what they'll do is they'll, depending on which homeroom they're in, and you can see here where the 5B, which is Barclay's homeroom, they might start on strings for the first 12 weeks. So they would pick from violin, viola, or cello. Then they would move to brass, and they'd pick between trumpet and trombone for 12 weeks. And then in the woodwind section, we'll pick between flute and clarinet for 12 weeks. And then the other section will start on a different instrument and rotate through. If we have 3 sections, we'll start one class on each different instrument. And then each student will get an opportunity to play one brass instrument, one woodwind instrument, and one string instrument. And that will give them, 12 weeks of experience is about right to figure out if this is something that you enjoy or if we need to change directions. If students are already playing, I know I've had students who take guitar or piano or already taking string lessons. I still want them to come through this rotation. Some of the best instrumentalists I know, including myself, play more than their primary instrument. And the more instruments you learn, the more it informs you about music in general, especially if your student's taking piano or guitar. There is no need for them to give that up because they're playing a wind or a string instrument in the Mills Lawn program. It actually only makes them stronger players in the long run. In fact, I wish I would have taken piano about 3 years before I started. I only started as a 9th grader, and I would have met a much stronger piano player if I would have started in 6th or 7th. So after each rotation of instrument, we'll have a short performance, and that I'll talk about that on a later slide. And then each student will fill out a reflection, and they'll fill out a 1 to 4 scale. Did this work for me? Did I like this? Do I see myself playing this instrument next year? So the goal here is to have them pick an instrument that speaks to them the most for the 6th grade year. And then after 6th grade, there's an opportunity to switch to some of the larger band instruments and to string bass and orchestra, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. Okay, so just a reminder of a couple of key points about our program here is that because we are supplying the instruments as a school, we're actually saving families about $270 to $350 for that first year of renting an instrument, which especially if you don't know if a student's going to stick with it in the long run, that's a weight off the shoulders. So in trade-off for that, we're asking that that each family pays a $51 fee, and $40 of that goes to the repair and maintenance for those instruments yearly, and then $11 goes towards the purchase of the book that we'll use in class. And those checks are made payable to YS Schools and can be paid at the beginning of the year to Mrs. Bussey in the front office at Mills Lawn. And so with that thinking there for me is that we dedicated a lot of instruments specifically to the 5th grade program. So as a school, we have a less instruments total to offer as loaned out instruments for students during the school year. So I am going to encourage that once we pick those instruments for 6th grade, that you think about as a family if it's possible for you to rent or to buy a used instrument, or even to pull out grandpa's clarinet from the attic and have it repaired at a store like Kincaid's, that we take the ownership there and have students find instruments for 6th grade. There are a handful of instruments that I can loan out, and I do that on a case-by-case basis. I don't ask about free and reduced lunch status. It's just if the situation does not lend itself for you to procure your own instrument, we will work with you. So some other, highlights for this program for me in the last couple of years is that each student is learning to read music a couple of times over. There's some built-in repetition and remediation there, especially if a student is switching from, like, say, trumpet to cello. You're switching from treble clef to bass clef, so you kind of have to relearn that system. But the first year we did this, we noticed that even though they have switched instruments, the second performance was much stronger than the first, and it's because their reading skills were increasing. Unfortunately, we didn't get to our third concert that first year because of the close down for the coronavirus. Students will get to have experience on 3 different instruments for 12 weeks each. And this extended experience, I think, helps students pick an instrument out of interest rather than out of path of least resistance. So when they pick their focus instrument for 6th grade, they don't have to pick one that they played in 5th grade. So the instruments available are flute, clarinet, trumpet, trombone, violin, viola, and cello. And say if a student played flute, trumpet, and violin in 5th grade, they could pick cello or viola or clarinet or trombone. In my opinion, all of those skills are transferable. Once you've played one of each, it's a lot easier to catch up and do another one. And we'll do a short review at the beginning of the school year of the 12 weeks worth of stuff that we did on each instrument. It'll probably take 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll be pushing on through new material. And finally, just some things that are useful to know about the program going forward. During the first week of school, I will have the students fill out a request form. Say if they're in the class that's starting on woodwinds, I'll have them pick between flute or clarinet. And then those instruments will be distributed to them during their class period at school. Instruments, I said handed out. Students are very much encouraged to take their instruments home to practice each week. But make sure that they bring them back on the days that they are scheduled for instrumental music, which will either be Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Friday, depending on which homeroom they're in. Every year, there's some sort of murmuring with the students that Mr. Mayer says, don't take the instruments home. That has never been the case. These instruments are theirs to use. Just keep in mind that if there's catastrophic damage above the $40 maintenance fee, or the instrument is lost or destroyed in any way, that the family will be responsible for reimbursing the school for the cost of that instrument or the cost of the severe damage repair. The homework for this class is really easy. They need to take their instrument out and they need to practice the skill. Playing an instrument is a muscle memory skill, as is drawing or practicing a sport. And the more they do it and the more consistently they do it, the easier it is and the more fun it becomes. So I highly encourage them to take their instruments home, especially over the weekend. But if they want to take it between their first and second day of class in the week, that's fine with me. The big issue is just make sure that they have it back on the days that they have class. The other big issue is for students that live maybe between 2 houses, or they spend a considerable amount of time at a relative's house during the week, just making sure that instrument is in the right place so that they can bring it to school on the correct day. So to help the students practice at home or to catch up on the day's lesson if they missed a class, I spent a lot of that first quarter when we were shut down for coronavirus recording dozens and dozens of videos that are now in links on my YouTube channel, and they're actually here where it says Book 1 Lesson Videos. That is a spreadsheet of every video that I've made corresponding to its number in the book. And what they can do is they can, the front half of the video is me explaining the new skill for each track in the book. And then the back half of the video is me performing it at 3 different speeds so that they can practice along It's so much easier to have someone to practice with at home than to try and do it yourself, especially on brass instruments and they're trying to hear the pitch, or string instruments when they're trying to feel where their finger goes for each pitch. And then if they missed a explanation or something from me during class, they can go back and watch it on the YouTube video. So I know not all of the fifth graders usually have permission or access to use YouTube at home. I am asking for you to allow them to make an exception here when they're working on their band or orchestra homework. This is a very, very useful tool for them to have at their convenience. And at the end of each 12-week rotation, we're going to have a small performance. These usually last between a half an hour or 45 minutes. And unless I send out information otherwise, these concerts are always at 7 o'clock, and they'll be at the Mills Lawn Gym. The final one may be up at the high school as an all-district concert. And like it says on the note there, I will let you know if it's going to be anywhere besides the Mills Lawn Gym, and if it's going to be at any time besides 7 o'clock. Between rotations, I do sanitize all the mouthpieces. We get new reeds for the clarinet, so you're not using somebody else's reed. And I've got several different sanitation techniques from my time as a musical instrument repair technician that we use to make sure the instrument is ready for the next user. There's a link down here at the bottom. If you have any clarifying questions that you need answered from me, please use this link, and I'm going to add this video and the plain slides so that you can click these links. And if you have questions, send them to me. And if there is a question that comes up from 2 or 3 people, I will send out a frequently asked question email to all the parents of this grade. And just as a good rule of thumb, please feel free and come to me first as a first line of information. Very often things, if we're trying to figure out information on Facebook, Why Schools Talk or something, that information can get misinterpreted or just relayed with a nuance that wasn't intended. So I have my school email on my phone, and I typically answer within about 20 minutes if I'm not teaching. So please come to me as the first line of information for anything that has to do with the school's music program. And I really look forward to this next school year, hopefully being a little bit more normal, depending on what your definition of normal is. And I can't wait to meet your kids in the fall. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.